All right, good morning. I'm Aaron Heiser of Maker's Leather Supply, and this is part 7. Should be the final part of our bag making series on the overnight bag. Anxious to get this one finished up because we've got more bags to build after this. So, little recap. So far, we cut everything out and marked everything on our patterns and then sewed everything together. So we've got, out of all the bits and pieces that we cut out, we only have 4 major pieces now. So you got one side of your bag with a pocket on it, another side of the bag where a pocket was optional. This is the bottom gusset piece, and this is the top gusset piece. So what we have to do today is put them together. All right. And I'm going to show you the easiest way that I have found to do such a task. And what you will need to do it the way I do it is a big old box of the binder clips. All right, those little black clips with silver handles on them, look like butterflies. We use the heck out of these when we build bags, and I'll show you why right now. Because you got to make sure that your gusset fits your body. All right. In making the pattern, there's not really a way to make it to where the gusset's going to be exactly the right size for the body, because people are going to use leather of different thicknesses, different stretching abilities, things like that. All right. Some of them, just skiving them is going to stretch out this gusset pretty good, and so we need to build the gusset to the point that it fits the bag well. All right. The other thing I need right now is my Sharpie marker, and I could have sworn I had it out, but I must have lied. 2 seconds. I'll pause this right quick. All right, so far I'm not running a good track record this morning. 2 minutes and 18 seconds into the video, and I already had to pause it. So what we need to do is we need to mark our centers on everything. I think we did a little bit of that in a previous video, but we're going to make sure that on the back sides of all 4 pieces, the center lines are marked. Okay, and it just needs to be a little bitty mark right there on the edge. But when you build a bag, it gets built from the center out. All right, that's how you make sure that the front piece and the back piece aren't askew of each other, is build it from the centers. So I am going to grab my paper patterns, because the easiest way is to mark your centers on your paper pattern, and then forever you will have your centers marked for all the other pieces. All right. So I'll get my giant centering ruler, because I don't like doing math. I don't like dividing by 2. That's just way too difficult for this early on a Sunday morning. All right, so I'm just going to mark on my paper pattern where these are. It's pretty easy to see on the gusset bottom, honestly, because the 4 little support pieces, it's obviously right in between 2 of them. But I'm still going to measure and mark it just to make sure. All right. Then the gusset top, same thing. It is a little bit different size, so all right. And then I know on my main part of my body, bag body, I've already marked my centers on the pattern. So that's right there and right there. You don't need to worry about the sides. All right. Excuse me. So what we're going to do is we are going to put these pieces on their corresponding leather pieces and just make a little mark. And that will make sure that all of our bag pieces are going to be lined up for final assembly once our gusset is built. Now, when I say that, we still have to sew the top half and the bottom half of the gusset together. So we're about to do that. Again, I'm marking the back side of the leather because when we go to put this thing together inside out, the back side is all I'll be able to see. We did have somebody in the last video comments asked about when to line this bag. I'm going to do a completely separate video on lining because it does make the final assembly a lot more difficult to do, and I want to get down the basics first, and then we'll start adding the fancy stuff. All right. Okay, apparently in a previous video we did mark the centers of these two pieces, so I've got them marked top and bottom here. Now, what we need to do is take my clips. I'm just going to pour a bunch of them out on the table, and I'm going to start clipping this bag together. All right? It doesn't matter which side you start with. Everything is ambidextrous up to this point. Everything on the right side and the left side are just, it doesn't matter. Okay? Sorry. For some reason, I thought I forgot my little maker's thingy, and I don't want to do that. So, what I do is, I need this to face me, and I'll have to kind of bend my handle down here. To clip this thing together, I'm going to line up those two center marks, the one for the top gusset and the one for one of the sides on the top. Okay, make sure that the top gusset's going on the top of the bag. The top of the bag's easy to find. It's the side that the handle's on. And I'm going to clip it right there. And then I'm going to move over 3 or 4 inches to one side or the other, and I'm going to clip it again. And we're just going to keep doing that until we're all the way down one side of it. All right, until the gusset piece is finished. So I'm going to just go down and clip these together. And while it's in this nice straight area, it's not a problem at all. It's once it gets to a corner that it gets fun. Wish my air conditioner would turn off. We've got some good music playing today. But I also like it cold in here. All right, so we're continuing on with every like 2 inches or so, we're doing a clip. All right. Now, when I get to a corner, the easiest way is to kind of roll the corner over a little bit. All right. Keep the gusset straight, but roll the, the other way around. Keep the gusset, or take the gusset and bend it a little bit and make that corner. And you're just lining up the edges, all right? And it doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but you need to keep it as lined up as you can. That's another awesome thing about bag making. Sometimes there's a little bit of fudge factor involved, and it's okay. All right, now I'm getting around this corner here, but I'm going to go ahead and skip down just a little bit and clip the bottom of this together, the bottom of the gusset piece to the side, just to kind of get it out of my way and give it a place to go. And then I'll come back and fill in the clips in between and make sure that everything's lined up nicely. This is not an easy thing to show on camera. I'm anxiously awaiting Janie being able to work here with me so that I can have an actual camera person so my camera can move and not just sit on its tripod across from me. But we're almost to that point. This is the one part of this bag that if you're using kind of a stretchy leather, it sure is beneficial. It doesn't need to be a stretchy leather by any means, but it does help a little bit when you're going around the corners with the gusset pieces. This leather has zero stretch to it whatsoever. It's actually kind of crazy the amount that it doesn't stretch. All right, so I went and finished down one side, and then I just came back up to the center, and I'm working my way away from the center towards the other direction. That happens a lot. Pop that clip right out, and I'll pick it up later. I'm just looking to make sure everything looks the same on both sides there. All right, top gusset is clipped in. Now it's time for the bottom gusset. Exact same thing, other side of the bag, or other end of the bag, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so once again, I'll line up my centers, and I'll start clipping around, starting at the middle, working my way out. And all we're doing is temporarily putting this thing together so that we can see where the gussets are going to meet. Nothing like that first sip of coffee. All right, once again, we're to a corner. This corner is actually a little bit more difficult because it's a sharper corner. It's not as doesn't have as much radius as the top corner does, but that's okay. I know we can do this. Now, when I get up here to where the two meet, I'll just kind of clip them in place there. And in a minute, I'll come back and mark where they meet so that I can trim the bottom gusset off. Excuse me. Almost there. All right, so where these line up, there's about a 1/2 inch on each side of overlap. And I am going to take my Sharpie and just mark where that overlap is. And I want to mark it on the bottom gusset piece. All right? Reason I want to do that is because the bottom gusset's the one I want to trim. So all right, now, those 10 minutes you just spent clipping that together were wasted. Take it back off. I was teaching a buddy of mine how to make these the other day, and he spent so much time getting all his clips perfect and all that, and he didn't realize we were just going to take them right back off. It was fun. It is a lot of clips. We have our Bitchin' Bags class coming up next weekend, and we bought like a couple of 1,000 clips because there's going to be a lot of folks in here making these bags. So, all right, so I've got my bottom gusset here. I'm going to turn it over so I can actually see where my marks were, and I'm going to find my ruler. And I screwed up a little bit. On the other end, I accidentally marked the dadgum top gusset. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. So, put my ruler on here, and all I'm going to do is trim off that little bit right there where the mark is. And then I'll have to do some figuring and trim off the other one. Alrighty. Now, I got to put the top gusset and the bottom gusset together. So what I need is a piece of scrap from when we made our handles. Alright, so I just got a little strip of leather, hopefully long enough to do both. Yeah. And I am going to measure out how wide it needs to be. Now, if you notice, this the area that we're doing this is right in the middle of this taper, so you might have a little bit of width difference in between the two pieces. That's okay. We're just going to sew right across that when we get to it. So I need to mark and cut this piece. I want it the width of that seam plus a little bit on each side, just because it's always better to have it longer and trim it later. So there's that one, and then I can just duplicate that for the other side. And then I need to skive the edges of this, okay? Because the ends of these pieces are going to be inside the seam of the bag, and anything in the seam of the bag needs to be skived. So I'm going to go over there and hit them up on the skiver, and I'll be right back. All right. I hit up the very tips of those on the skiver right quick, and I'm just going to lay them across here, and I'm going to double stick tape them down on the seam there. And then I'm going to sew down both sides of it, okay? I don't like doing this, but I'm not going to take the camera over to the sewing machine just to sew this little bit together, because it's a real simple seam and everything. And I'm going to have to move the cameras a couple other times sorry, I'm looking for my dadgum scissors. So anyway, I'm going to have to move the cameras several other times for the sewing machines, and I'm trying to conserve some time on this video. I've got about 3 hours that I can finish this up today, and I got to go find my scissors. I'm sorry. All right, sorry about that. So I'm going to use some double-sided tape and stick on the back of this piece and get it ready to stick to the bag. You could use glue. Glue was perfectly fine, but I like using the double-sided tape because it's faster. I don't have to wait for it to set up or anything. And yeah. Now I could go ahead and put both sides of the gusset together, this one and the other side, to make the complete circle, but it's a lot easier to sew the first one if you just do it and then sew it and then go back and do the second one. The second one on a sewing machine. The other thing is, you got to make sure when you lay this down that it is just right in the middle of that seam, because otherwise it's going to be crooked on the side of the bag. And crooked's no fun. So anyway, yeah, to sew the complete circle on the seam and make the complete gusset, it's not difficult to do. It's just a little bit more difficult than sewing this flat piece here first. So I'm going to go over to the machine. I'm going to sew this piece in. And when I come back, we'll set up the other side and we'll sew it in, okay? All right, so I got that one sewn in, okay? And now it is time to do the other one. So I'm just going to flip this over a little bit. And then, call me silly, but one of the ways I've found to do this is to kind of prop these other pieces up with some stuff. Everyone has plenty of stuff on their workbench, I'm sure. I know I do. All right, so I'm going to kind of prop them up a little bit with stuff and go ahead and push these pieces together, and then I'll tape the other one down. And I left my scissors at the sewing machine. All right. Got my tape on the back. Peel the backing off the tape. And again, we're going to lay it down right in the middle of that seam. Make sure it's nice and straight. And we're going to take it back to the sewing machine. One of the reasons that we do this transition piece and we don't just sew the two pieces of gusset together and then, fold that seam flat is because like this especially is a bit of a printed leather, and the print's not always going to line up that great. So on a really noticeable area like that it's not on a corner or anything like that, I like to do this, and that way, the prints don't have to match up quite as much. So, all right. So again, I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to go over there and sew the other side. Real easy to stick in the machine. I just hold it back like this and sew that sucker down, and then I turn it around and go up the other side, holding it the exact same way, but on the other side. When I come back, we will put the gusset on the sides, one side at a time, and we're going to start sewing this bag together. And for that, I will move the machine over, or the camera over to the machine. All right, so now we have a completed gusset. It is now a big circle. We're going to leave it inside out for now, because that's how we have to put it together with the bag. Now, it is time to do the very last part of the bag, which is to sew the sides and the gusset together. You can clip it together. That's what I usually do. You can tape it together, or you can glue it together. Glue is the most secure by far, but I have to warn you, when using either tape or glue, you did about a 3/8 of an inch, maybe even a 1/2 inch of a skive here on the edges. when you go to sew that, don't try to stay all the way out on the very edge because you're guaranteed to miss one of the layers of the bag if you do. Go ahead and and glue maybe the last quarter of an inch and then sew just inside that glue line, okay? The worst thing you can do is have your glue way out into the skived area or whatever, you know, or further out than your sew line, and then when you turn it right side out, you got a bunch of glue sticking out of your seam. And all the hard work and professional, you know, stuff that you tried to put into your bag, and it's going to look bad because you got glue hanging out, all right? Glue is not your friend when it comes to that stuff. So I am going to glue mine. And again, I'm going to be extremely careful when applying my glue to the pieces that I just get it on the very, 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 very edge of it, okay? I don't want it all over it. I just want it on the very edge, all right? So I'm going to start by putting the glue on the gusset piece here, and then I'll set it up like this on the table so that the pieces don't fall over and the glue doesn't stick to each other, all right? And then I'm going to glue up one of the sides. Again, this is ambidextrous at this point. Still, it doesn't matter which side you glue it to, unless, of course, you did something different than I did that makes, you know, that you want it on a certain side of your bag. All right, and I'll put glue on the, and again, we're gluing on the finished side. We're not gluing on the back sides here, okay? But then I'll put get the glue on the bag side here, and then I will stick the two together and I will sew it one side at a time, okay? I don't want to glue the entire bag together and then try to sew the whole thing. It's just a pain in the butt, and it's just way easier to glue, sew, come back, glue some more, and then sew it again. All right, so one complete side at a time. I'm using our contact cement. Peter Main, a long time ago, told me with these glue jars and stuff like that, if you trim the brush, then you'll have a much more accurate ability, or yeah, you'll be a lot more accurate putting your glue. You're not going to accidentally slop it into places you don't want it and stuff like that. I'm going to pause the camera because, I mean, there's no special trick to putting glue on something. I'm just going to try to keep it right along the very, very edge. Again, this is going to be on the finished part of my leather, okay? It's not on this back side. It's on the front side. And I'm only going to do a quarter of an inch or less. I just need a little bit. I don't want to go a whole bunch into the body of the leather there, okay? So I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to start gluing. When I come back, I will have this piece glued and one of the sides, same thing, on the finished side, quarter of an inch all the way around, will be glued. All right, got glue on my gusset piece, got glue on one of my two sides, and it's time to start sticking them together. We're going to do this exactly like how we did it when we clipped it together. We're going to start with our centers and work our way around. Okay? It is a little bit difficult because, of course, there's glue everywhere now, but we will manage. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the top center together, and then I'm going to clip it, and then I'm going to stick the bottom center together, and I'm going to clip it, and then I'm just going to work my way around. But as long as my top and my bottom centers are lined up, then this bag should be pretty straight once sewn. Again, make sure that you're not putting that side on their side upside down or whatever. That would be catastrophic at this point. All right, so my top is glued and clipped. Now my bottom center is glued and clipped. I'm going to go back to the top and I'm going to start pressing the seam together all the way around the bag. Okay? And what I'll do is I'll get about down here to where the seam is for the top and bottom gusset, and then I'll come around and do the other side. Then I'll flip it over, and once again, I'll work away from the centers back to that area. Okay? That way, if there is a little bit of area that needs stretching, or the exact opposite, an area might be need a little bit of crimping up in an area, then I can take care of that. Now, the glue is going to hold this pretty well, but I'm still going to put a clip every few inches, because as I get to these corners, I'm really going to have to work it, and I don't want to lose what I got. Okay. The glue being on the finished side of the leather, it doesn't hold quite as well as it would if it were on the back side, the flesh side, where it would have all that grain and everything to stick together for me. This is going together very, very well. Again, the corners are definitely the hardest part. If you can manage those, you're golden. All right, I'm down here at my side seam. Put a clip right there in that area. Then I'll move over and do the other side. Again, at this point, the clips aren't really necessary. They're more of a precaution, and I would rather spend the extra couple of seconds clipping this silly thing together than I would it coming apart as I am pulling and tugging trying to get the corners lined up. When we go to sew this thing together, I do prefer to use a cylinder arm machine. It does make it a little bit easier. But we started this on a Class 18, which is a flatbed machine, and we're going to finish it on a Class 18 flatbed machine, because I don't want folks out there watching to think that they need 2 sewing machines to make a bag. I just happen to have that convenience in this shop, so therefore, you know, why not use them? And we did have a guy ask, you know, on one of our videos was like, well, do you have to have a sewing machine? And I've said it numerous times. No, you don't have to have a sewing machine. It definitely makes work faster, but it doesn't really make it any easier. It just makes it faster. I happen to sell sewing machines in my shop, so I've got several machines to choose from when I make a project. And when it's a big project like this, I don't mind hand sewing stuff like this. It just takes so long, and I'm trying to make a video. Y'all definitely don't want to watch me hand sew this thing. I know most of y'all are already bored just watching me do it on a machine. That's okay. As long as we're learning. All right, last little bit on this side as I get it together. Looks like everything's falling perfectly into place, so I don't have to fudge anything. I don't have to crimp anything. And by crimping, I just mean where you're kind of stretching one side and maybe squishing the other side together a little bit. I don't know what the term is for that. It's not truly crimping because you're not folding anything over. But anyway, I'm not having to do it right now. All right, that side's done. Let's go over here and finish up this side and get to sewing. I'm ready to turn this bag right side out in a few minutes. It's always that moment of truth when you get to turn it inside, right side out. See how well you did. I made a really nice duffel bag. Anybody that follows me personally on Facebook, I made a really nice duffel bag the other day, but I haven't posted any pictures of it finished because it was a prototype. And while it all went together very well, and you know, the design's right and all that, the sizing is not right. It ended up, it's too long and too short, but yet too wide at the base. And it just doesn't, aesthetically, it doesn't look right to me. So anyway, I'll still use it as one of my personal bags, but it's definitely not ready to be a pattern to show off to anybody. So I'm remaking it, hoping to get some time tonight to come back up here and work on it some. But it's going to be a really nice duffel bag. Like, this is an overnight bag. It's kind of small. I'm talking about a duffel bag, just stuffed full of crap. All right, this thing is all clipped together. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to pause this, and when we come back, the camera will be over there at the sewing machine, and I'm going to have to figure out some sort of crazy angle that I can get this this thing working, because the normal area that I put the camera in, all you would see is the back of this bag the whole time that I'm sewing on the other side of it. So anyway, we'll figure it out. When we come back, that's what we'll have. All right, so here we are back at our trusty Class 18. I've already checked. I've got a brand new bobbin under it, so you know, I'm easily going to be able to make it all the way around the bag. But that would definitely be the first thing I'd want to check, because I don't want to have to pull this bag out from here and change the bobbin. I mean, it doesn't do anything wrong. It doesn't affect the bag. I just don't want to stop to do it. So as I sew along, I'm going to pull these clips off and just throw them over here in a pile because I forgot my little cup that I keep them in. I'm just going to start right here at the top, and I'm going to sew all the way around the bag and just kind of rotate it around as I go. I have the bag laying on its side. I think that's going to be the easiest way to sew this seam. But what I want to remind you is you don't want to sew it way out here on the very, very edge. You want to sew it 3/8 of an inch in, okay? Get that seam in there because you need to get it past your glue, and also you don't want to accidentally not pick up the bottom layer of the bag, you know, as you're sewing it together. So, first clip's off. I'm going to set that sucker under there, and we're going to get to sewing. I'm going pretty far in, like I said, about 3/8 of an inch or so. I want to get it all the way in there to where it's right where the skive starts, really. That's where I want my stitch line. I don't need to back stitch because I'm just going straight around the bag. I'm not, you know, it's the beginning and end point are the same point. So when I come back around, I'll just sew back over the first few. I apologize for the light. Normally I turn it out, but I really would like to see what I'm doing for this part just to make sure I don't screw up. So, flat spots on the bag, the straight runs are very simple. There's nothing to them. It's just regular old sewing. It's when you get to the corner that you got to kind of bend it away and you know, work it a little bit and get her down. Yes, I do have my finger danger close to where the needle is. Be safe, folks. It's just a sewing machine, but it can hurt you. If it's designed to go through 3/8 of an inch of leather, what can it do to your precious digits? One thing that stinks about all these clips is they kind of get hung up on the edges of your table as you're going around. So you just got to kind of keep it rotating and go slow and make sure that your clips aren't hanging you up to the point that you can't get her sewn. All right, and then as I go along, I'm going to fold some of these parts out so that I can fold other parts in to try to keep this area that I'm sewing as flat as possible, because it makes it a lot easier if you're not trying to sew something that's trying to waffle up on you. Got this clip too close. I gotta work it out. There we go. All right, so here I am coming up to the first gusset seam. So I'm about 1/4 of the way around the bag now. Just pulling clips as I go. All right, so again, I'm back here behind the bag, behind the machine. I'm unfolding some things so that I can fold this area up here. All right, it gets a little bit more difficult with all these support panels that are on the bottom, but we can do it. We just got to go slow and a little bit at a time. Corners are always fun. Almost back to a straightaway on the bag. We can go pretty quickly through it. I'm just going to go ahead and on the straight area here, I'm going to go ahead and pull all these clips off so I can just sew it. All right, on to corner number 3 here. This is one of the sharper corners that's on the bottom, so it is a little bit more difficult. But we're managing. That pop you just heard was my bobbin winder kicking off down there. I always have a bobbin on the winder. That way I'm not having to stop to wind bobbins. So when I pull one out of the machine, I immediately put it over there on the winder and get her going for the next one. Even though I've got 2 or 3 others sitting over there already wound. All right, coming up to our last corner. It's getting exciting. I've seen videos of factories and stuff where folks are sewing like a glove or something like that, you know, and it's got a lot of turns and stuff in it. And I mean, they do so many of them in a day that they can just whip out one of those gloves in a matter of seconds. And yeah, I laugh because how long it takes me to go around this relatively straight corner of a bag and stuff. Maybe if I made a couple of hundred of them a day. I had a guy yesterday in here, a buddy of mine. He was like, man, you should start your own like bag line and make these things and sell them. I don't really need anything else right now. I stay busy enough. I live at this shop already. I tell everybody, I live at the shop. I sleep at my house. All right, so we're back to our first stitches here. Okay, we're back to our first stitches here. And I'm just going to take my needle and put it in that very first stitch hole. And then I'll go ahead and just go over those first couple of stitches again. And that'll lock it all into place. All right. So there she be. We have sewn 1/2 of our bag. Now, I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to go glue up the other half of the bag. It's exactly the same way as the first half. Actually, it's a little bit easier because now the gusset part is already standing up on its own. But I will warn you, before you glue that up and put that together, unzip your zipper enough to get your hand in. If you don't do that, you will sew this bag closed, and it's going to be very, very difficult to open it, to turn it right side out. Ask me how I know. So anyway, make sure you unzip your zipper before you glue and sew the other side on. I'm going to pause this. When I come back, it'll be glued, and we'll be right back here at the machine again. All right, I got the second side all clipped up, so I'm going to start sewing it, and don't really need to do it on camera. It's exactly like the first side was. I can't stress enough, unzip your damn bag. Don't sew it with the zipper closed. That way you can reach in there and unzip it the rest of the way so you can turn it right side out. So I'm going to sew the second side up, and yeah, when we come back, we will be back over at the other table. We'll turn it right side out, and we'll have some closing notes on this project. All right, so here we have our bag. It is what I like to call the moment of truth. This is where we find out how well or poorly we might have done. I don't even like the idea that I'm about to turn this bag right side out on camera, because what if I screwed something up royally? You don't know until you turn it out. I will tell you this, before you turn your bag inside out, even before you leave your sewing machine, check all your seams, both sides, this side and this side, and make sure that the leather is sewn together on both of them, because when you go around those corners, it is easy for the machine to pull a piece down, and you may not even see it happen. Next thing you know, you only sewed through one piece of leather and not both, And so yeah, it could be potentially bad. So now we will go ahead. I'm going to unzip this zipper as far as I can. And I'm going to turn the bag right side out. I will caution you of this. This leather is pretty rugged, so I'm not worried about it. But if you were using, something really smooth and nice and soft, you may want to put tape over your zipper before you turn the bag right side out. Otherwise, your zipper could scratch up and scuff up your leather as you're doing your turn. All right. Again, I don't need to. This is a pretty rugged leather. It's not going to show scratches and stuff. And then even sometimes when I do use something that would show some scratches, a lot of the time it's the type of stuff that would really give it some character, oil tans and things like that. And so I'm usually not that cautious, but that is a way to avoid that, is just take some painter's tape and put it over your zipper, and you won't scratch up your bag. All right, so I always start with a corner, and I'll push it in from the outside, grab it from the inside, and pull. This thing has a real nice wide mouth to it, so it's not difficult to turn by any means. I work my way around, grab another corner, pull it, and as I'm pulling the bottom through, I just flip the top right side out, and it seems to work. Oh, I am excited. Nothing like working for hours and hours and hours on a project, and then next thing you know, it's ready. Janie and I will be taking a trip here in a few weeks, and I know she'll be excited to have herself a new bag for the trip. All right, we're almost there. Last thing I'll do is just go on the inside, push all the corners completely out. And this is a successful project. All right, so the other thing you'll want to do is just take all your corners and kind of pinch them and fold them down a little bit. And that'll help the bag maintain a rigid shape and the shape of, what it's supposed to look like, as opposed to whatever shape it may take because of, say, weak spots in the leather or anything like that. Especially like where this pocket is on the front, that's an extra layer of leather. So if you fold that under a little bit and those handles where they are, fold them a little bit, then you'll get a better shape. So there's one side. I'll fold up the other side here. Excited. This one turned out great. I'm super, super happy with it. Janie might not get it. It may have to be the store display for the patterns. All right, now I'll zip it back up and it will have a semi-rigid shape. Helps if you zip both at the same time. Now once the bag's full of stuff, it'll be a lot easier to zip. And then also, I'm going to put some blood knots on the zipper pulls, just so that it adds some extra leather there and it makes it easier to pull on and stuff like that. So here it is, folks. We can add a shoulder strap, real simple. Take a trigger snap or something like that, put it on a strap, make the strap as long as you want, and clip it to these D-rings that we hung on there. You can add a extra piece of leather that wraps around these two handles and holds them together. I mean, there's tons of different things you can do to customize these. One of the things I have recently done is I took and made, or had made, a, can't seem to find it. Anyway, I had made a luggage tag clicker die. And every bag I make from here on out, I will make a matching luggage tag to hang from it. And it'll just be a really nice, nice addition, I guess you can say. So here it is. I'm excited about how it turned out. I hope that you have learned something in having to watch all this, because God knows if you listen to all me talking for all these videos, surely you got something out of it, because otherwise, why in the world would you listen to me? Again, thanks for watching so much. This was part 7 of the videos, and this bag is now complete. Now I'm going to dig through the other bags I've made and decide which one's going to be the next video series we do. Yeah, but I am really, really excited, and I think that this was a great project, and I really hope you learned something. If you have any suggestions or anything, please leave them in the comments. I do read all the comments. I do try to respond to all the comments. And so if you have any suggestions on a bag you'd like us to make, or any project you'd like us to make, or a video you want us to do, I'm more than happy to do that. So just get a hold of me and let me know. Until next time, I'm Aaron Heiser, Maker's Leather Supply, and thanks for watching.